My brothers and sisters, let me tell you something. You're not behind, you're just not aligned. See, comparison kills confidence. And when confidence dies, action dies with it. You can't move forward if you're busy looking sideways. Now, let me give you a picture. You ever been on a racetrack? All the runners line up and the gun goes off. You know what happens to the guy who keeps turning his head to see where everybody else is? He slows down. He loses momentum. Why? Because you can't run forward if your focus is backward or sideways. Stop comparing. Start creating. Comparison kills confidence. Focus breeds growth. Every time you compare yourself to someone else, you're making a silent agreement to devalue you the gifts and opportunities that are already in your hands. You're telling yourself what they have is better, who they are is greater, where they are is more significant. That voice starts small, but if you let it grow, it eats away at your confidence like a disease. And without confidence, you won't take the kind of bold, decisive action it takes to grow. Think about this. A farmer doesn't look over the fence at his neighbor's field every day to see how fast his crops are growing. He focuses on watering, tending, and cultivating his own land. Why? Because staring at someone else's field doesn't make your crops grow any faster. The same thing applies to your life. Staring at someone else's results doesn't make your business grow. It doesn't strengthen your relationships, and it doesn't help you build wealth. It only slows you down. The moment you start comparing, you invite distraction into your process. Distraction divides your energy, and divided energy produces divided results. You can't operate at your highest potential while your mind is split between what you're doing and what they're doing. That's why focus is so powerful. When you focus, you bring all your energy, attention, and creativity into one place. And that's where growth begins, and you were designed to live by vision. Vision is internal, comparison is external. Vision comes from what you know you're called to do. Comparison comes from watching what others are doing. One pushes you forward, the other pulls you backward. There's also this subtle lie that comparison tries to whisper. If I just had what they have, I'd be further ahead. But the truth is, you don't need what they have to succeed. You need to maximize what's already in your hands. That's why focus matters so much. Focus keeps you in your lane. Focus makes sure you're not squandering time, energy, and attention on things that don't move you closer to your assignment. Confidence is like a muscle. Every time you choose focus over comparison, that muscle gets stronger. Every time you keep your eyes on your own work and celebrate small progress, you're building the internal strength required to sustain success when it comes. Because success is not just about what you achieve externally, it's about the kind of person you become internally. It's easy to underestimate the power of focus because it feels simple. But simple isn't the same as easy. Simple is hard because it requires discipline, discipline to shut off the noise, discipline to say no to distractions, discipline to keep watering your own field even when nothing seems to be happening. That's why so many people fall into the trap of comparison. It feels easier to watch others than to work on yourself. Confidence grows in the soil of action, and action only happens when focus is present. If you want to experience growth in your mindset, your finances, your relationships, your business, you have to break free from the comparison trap and get fully committed to the work in front of you. Focus creates momentum, and momentum compounds over time. When you stay focused on your growth, you stop worrying about how long it's taking or how far ahead others seem. You're too busy creating, building, and becoming. That's when the shift happens. That's when you start to experience breakthroughs you didn't even see coming. Comparison robs you of joy and clarity. Focus restores both. When you protect your focus, you protect your potential. And protected potential always produces fruit. Your race is unique. Run at your pace. There's a reason runners on a track have their own lanes. The moment they cross over into someone else's lane, they risk disqualification. It doesn't matter how fast they were running or how much effort they put in. Stepping out of their lane means they've broken the rules of the race. In life, the same principle applies. You were not created to run someone else's race. Your gifts, your calling, and your journey are specifically designed for you. And the moment you start trying to match someone else's pace, you step out of alignment with your own assignment. When you see other people moving faster, it's tempting to think you're behind. You start feeling pressure to speed up, to force outcomes, to make things happen before their time. But forced growth is fragile growth. It doesn't last because the foundation isn't strong. Growth that's aligned with your pace, your preparation, and your process is the kind of growth that produces fruit that remains. That's why it's dangerous to let someone else's timeline define your own. A baby doesn't learn to walk the day after it's born. A seed doesn't become a tree overnight. Every stage has a purpose, and every delay has a lesson. When you embrace your pace, you give yourself permission to grow at the speed that builds strength, character, and capacity. You allow yourself to become the kind of person who can handle the weight of the success you're asking for. Because the truth is, it's not just about reaching the destination, it's about being prepared for it when you arrive. People love to glorify speed, but speed without direction leads to exhaustion. You can run fast in the wrong direction and end up further from your purpose than when you started. Pace is not about how fast you can move, it's about moving with clarity and consistency. When you run at your pace, you stay focused on the vision in front of you instead of getting distracted by the noise around you. You stop measuring progress by how quickly you see results and start measuring it by how aligned you are with your assignment. Every time you try to run at someone else's pace, you're stepping into a story that wasn't written for you. Their race has different obstacles, different lessons, and different timing. You don't know the sacrifices they made to get where they are. You don't know the weight they're carrying, and you don't know if the pace they're running is even sustainable. What looks like speed from the outside might be struggle on the inside. That's why you can't use their progress as a benchmark for your purpose. Your pace is determined by your preparation. Some seasons will feel fast because you're ready for acceleration. Other seasons will feel slow because they're designed for growth below the surface. A tree's roots grow deep before its branches grow wide. If the roots aren't strong, the tree can't sustain the weight of the fruit. You might be in a root season right now, a season where the growth isn't visible, but the foundation is being strengthened. That's not a sign to give up or speed up. It's a sign to stay planted and keep building. When you honor your pace, you stay in alignment with your purpose. You stop striving and start flowing. You stop competing and start creating. You stop hustling for validation and start walking in confidence. It's not about how quickly you finish, it's about finishing well. Small beginnings lead to massive breakthroughs. Every great thing you see today started small. The tallest skyscraper began as a single line on a blueprint. The biggest businesses in the world started in someone's garage or basement. The most powerful movements began with just one person daring to believe in a vision others couldn't see. It's easy to celebrate the finished product, but if you despise the small beginnings, you'll never build the strength, skill, and wisdom required to sustain the break through your praying for. Small beginnings don't look impressive because they're not supposed to. They're designed to test your commitment, your consistency, and your capacity to stay faithful even when the results are invisible. Everyone wants the fruit, but few people are willing to nurture the seed. A seed doesn't look like much. You can hold it in your hand and doubt if anything will ever come from it. But the seed contains the blueprint for the tree, the branches, the leaves, and the fruit. The potential is already inside, but the process is what unlocks it. The challenge with small beginnings is that they require vision. Vision is the ability to see beyond what is into what could be. When you're at the starting line, nothing around you looks like success. The numbers aren't impressive, the support isn't massive, the opportunities aren't flowing. That's where most people quit. They assume the smallness of their beginning is a reflection of their destiny. They forget that growth starts below the surface where no one can see it. When you embrace small beginnings, you give yourself permission to grow into the person who can carry big results. A breakthrough is not just about receiving something new. It's about becoming someone new. The habits, mindset, and discipline you develop in small beginnings prepare you for the weight of the success that's coming. Without that preparation, what feels like a blessing can quickly turn into a burden. It's easy to compare your small start to someone else's established success and feel like you're falling behind. But you don't know how long they labored in obscurity before anyone noticed. You don't see the years they spent building systems, learning skills, and failing forward before they had a breakthrough. Success rarely happens suddenly, even if it looks that way from the outside. Most overnight success stories are years in the making. The temptation during small beginnings is to rush the process, to take shortcuts, to chase quick wins instead of building something that lasts. But rushed growth is weak growth. What comes quickly often crumbles just as fast. Lasting breakthroughs are built on deep foundations. Every day you stay faithful in your small beginnings, you're laying bricks that can hold the weight of something massive. Small beginnings are also where creativity is born. When resources are limited, you learn to innovate. When support is scarce, you learn to persevere. When visibility is low, you learn to believe in yourself instead of waiting for external validation. Those lessons become part of your DNA, and they stay with you long after the breakthrough comes. Every time you show up in your small beginnings, you're signaling to yourself and to the world that you're serious about your vision. You're proving that you don't need applause to stay consistent. You're demonstrating that you're not just chasing results, you're committed to growth. Mastery comes through daily intentional action. There is no shortcut to mastery. It's not the result of random effort or occasional bursts of motivation. Mastery is born when you show up every single day with intention, focus, and commitment to get better at your craft. It doesn't matter how talented you are or how much potential you carry inside you. Without consistent, deliberate action, potential remains dormant and never transforms into power. Excellence is not an accident. It's the outcome of habits repeated over time. Every great athlete, artist, entrepreneur, and leader you admire became who they are because they chose to engage in disciplined practice even when they didn't feel like it. Feelings are unreliable companions on the road to mastery. Discipline is what carries you forward when excitement fades and challenges rise. Discipline turns dreams into plans, and plans into results. The world is full of people who start strong but never finish. They're fueled by enthusiasm in the beginning, but enthusiasm alone can't sustain the journey. What sustains the journey is intentional action taken daily, no matter how small the steps may seem. Small, focused steps compound over time to produce extraordinary results. 1 hour of deliberate practice every day doesn't look like much in the moment, but over months and years, it becomes the edge that separates average from excellence. Mastery isn't about perfection, it's about progress. It's not about doing everything at once. It's about doing the right things repeatedly until they become second nature. Many people waste energy on busyness, mistaking activity for productivity, but mastery demands focus. It demands that you identify the few critical actions that move you closer to your goals and eliminate distractions that steal your energy. Repetition is the mother of skill. Every time you practice with intention, you're rewiring your mind and body to operate at a higher level. But repetition without reflection leads to stagnation. That's why it's not just about doing the same thing over and over. It's about doing it with awareness, analyzing what's working and what isn't, and making adjustments along the way. Mastery is built in the feedback loop of action, reflection, and correction. The process of mastery can feel slow because results don't show up immediately. This is where most people quit. They stop because they can't see the harvest yet, forgetting that growth is often invisible before it's undeniable. You can't microwave greatness, you can't skip the process. You have to plant, water, and cultivate the seeds daily until the breakthrough comes. Distractions are the enemy of mastery. Every time you switch your focus from your craft to someone else's progress, you dilute your energy. Every time you chase shiny objects instead of staying faithful to the fundamentals, you delay your own growth. Mastery is not about doing more things, it's about doing fewer things better. The compound effect of daily intentional action doesn't just transform your skills, it transforms you. As you practice with purpose, you develop patience, resilience, and confidence. You begin to trust yourself to follow through on your commitments. That internal transformation is just as important as any external result, because mastery is not just about what you do. It's about who you become in the process. Protect your mind like it's your greatest asset. Your mind is the control center for everything you create, achieve, and experience in life. Every decision you make, every action you take, and every result you produce begins as a thought. If your thinking is limited, your life will be limited. If your mindset is cluttered with fear, doubt, and distraction, you will never have the clarity and confidence to step fully into your potential. That's why protecting your mind isn't optional, it's essential. Most people spend more time protecting their phones with passwords and screen locks than they do guarding their own thoughts. They allow anyone and anything to speak into their minds without filtering, whether it serves their growth or undermines it. What you allow into your mind consistently will shape your reality. Negative words, toxic environments, and destructive beliefs don't just visit your mind. They take root and begin to grow if you don't actively reject them. You have to think of your mind like a garden. Whatever you plant in it will eventually grow. If you sow seeds of faith, discipline, and vision, you will reap a harvest of progress and success. But if you allow weeds of comparison, fear, and complacency to take over, they will choke out your potential before it has a chance to flourish. Protecting your mind requires you to be intentional about what you expose yourself to and what you meditate on daily. One of the most powerful ways to protect your mind is by controlling your environment. The conversations you engage in, the media you consume, and the people you allow into your inner circle all have an influence on how you think and what you believe about yourself. If you surround yourself with people who are constantly negative, cynical, or small-minded, it's only a matter of time before their mindset begins to infect yours. But if you choose to spend time around people who challenge you, inspire you, and believe in your potential, their mindset will elevate yours. Protecting your mind also means mastering your internal dialogue. The loudest voice you'll ever hear is your own. If you constantly tell yourself you're not enough, not ready, or not capable, those words will become your reality. You have to retrain your mind to speak life over your goals, to affirm your strengths, and to reject thoughts that don't align with your vision. This isn't about blind positivity. It's about intentional mental discipline. The battle for your future is won or lost in your thought life. Most people lose that battle because they underestimate how much their thinking determines their outcomes. They focus on working harder instead of thinking better, but your actions will always rise or fall to the level of your mindset. When you think from a place of abundance, possibility, and purpose, you approach challenges with creativity and resilience. When you think from a place of lack, fear, and limitation, you shrink back and sabotage your own progress. Protecting your mind also requires you to guard your focus. Your attention is one of your most valuable resources, and in today's world, there are endless distractions competing for it. Every time you allow your mind to be pulled in 1,000 directions, you weaken your ability to stay present and make powerful decisions. Mental clutter creates confusion, and confusion leads to inaction. Clarity comes when you strip away the noise and commit to nourishing your mind with ideas, principles, and information that elevate you. You don't have to think every thought that comes to you. You don't have to entertain every opinion spoken over you. You have the authority to decide what stays and what goes. Growth creates momentum. Momentum creates big wins. Growth is not just an event or a moment of success. It is a process, a compounding effect of consistent effort over time that builds unstoppable momentum. When you commit to personal growth, you are no longer waiting for opportunities to come to you. You are creating opportunities through the energy and progress you generate. Every small improvement, every refined skill, and every step forward contributes to a force that begins to carry you further and faster than you could have imagined. Momentum is the invisible engine behind every major breakthrough. At first, growth feels slow and even frustrating because the results aren't immediate. You're planting seeds, but the ground looks the same day after day. This is where most people quit, because they confuse stillness on the surface with a lack of progress underneath. What they don't realize is that the effort they're putting in is building pressure, and when enough pressure builds, it creates a shift that feels sudden, but is actually the result of compounded actions over time. Growth requires consistency, and consistency requires discipline. When you show up every day and do the work, when you keep learning, keep practicing, and keep stretching yourself beyond your comfort zone, you're adding weight to the flywheel. At first, it feels heavy to push. The effort outweighs the reward. But if you keep pushing, eventually the wheel starts to turn. And once it turns, it gets easier to keep moving because momentum begins to work in your favor instead of against you. Momentum multiplies your efforts. When you're in momentum, opportunities seem to come faster, doors begin to open, and connections happen more naturally. But all of this is the harvest of growth you were cultivating long before anyone else noticed. Without growth, momentum can't exist. You can't stay stagnant and expect to accelerate. The energy you put into your development creates the force that propels you forward. Big wins don't come from one big action. They are the result of hundreds, even thousands, of small, intentional decisions made consistently over time. Every time you read a book instead of scrolling, practice a skill instead of procrastinating, or invest in your mindset instead of complaining, you are making deposits that build toward exponential results. It's the law of compounding in action. Tiny gains, stacked daily, turn into extraordinary growth over months and years. Momentum is also fragile in the beginning. It requires protection. Distractions, negativity, and inconsistency are like brakes that slow your progress and drain your energy. That's why focus is critical. You have to guard your time, your attention, and your environment so that nothing interrupts the force you're building. Once momentum is established, it takes on a life of its own and begins to pull you forward. But until then, you are the one who must create the push. Growth is not always exciting, and momentum is not always obvious in the early stages. You may feel like nothing is changing, but transformation is happening below the surface. Every lesson learned, every obstacle overcome, and every habit developed is preparing you for the moment when the results compound and everything begins to shift. Big wins are not an accident. They are a reflection of the momentum you've built through dedication to growth. You don't stumble into greatness. You grow into it step by step, day by day, decision by decision.